Hey there, it's Jen from empathicmastery.com, and to join into the party, come on over to the Empathic Mastery Facebook group, which is Empathic Mastery Circle, and you can learn more about that at empathicmastery.com/FB group. So I wanted to jump on today to talk about open or close, because I was just doing my EFT mentoring call with my EFT students, and one of the things that came up was awareness of how sometimes what we need to do is we need to open things up and we need to look for answers and we need to invite new things in. Other times what we really need to do is that we need to actually contain energy, resolve things, and actually close stuff up. And recognizing where you're at and whether you need to open something or close something is a really important piece. So hang on for 1 second. I'm just going to actually hit the share button so that this can go over into our Facebook group. So I can actually, it's so cool, I can see myself doing that right now. And if you're not a member of the Facebook group right now, I really want to invite you to come on over to the Empathic Mastery Circle. So please come on in. So anyway, I wanted to talk with you guys about the idea of open or close. So I was talking earlier today, I run a bi-weekly mentoring call for my EFT practitioner students. And every other week, basically, we have conversations about how to be great practitioners and some of the things that we need to take into consideration. And today, what ended up coming up in our conversation, hey there, Victoria, so good to see you. What ended up coming up in our conversation today was the idea of recognizing whether or not we wanted to be focusing on opening things up and going deeper into the work, or if we wanted to be, or if we needed to focus on containment and closure and basically letting things feel safer and more grounded. And the thing is that while this is absolutely relevant for any of us when we are acting as practitioners and healers, it's something you really want to be thinking about. Do you want to be opening up the energy or do you want to be closing the energy? Do you want to be opening for more information or do you want to be creating more safety and containment? But this is also something that is true for us as individuals and especially as highly sensitive, empathic people. Now, the thing I think about our society is that right now, it's kind of like we live in a culture that is constantly focused on opening, constantly focused on getting more, receiving more, taking more in, and kind of that idea of like we are in a perpetual growth cycle. Now, if you think about nature and you think about what is actually a perpetual growth cycle, it's called cancer. It's actually called cancer. Uncontrolled, uncontained growth is not something that we necessarily want all the time. That if you think about it within nature, that just absolutely reckless, nonstop growth, that is actually in our bodies, that is the manifestation of cancer. But as a society, we are really focused on this idea of more. Like if you're around the entrepreneur world at all, if you happen to see coach stuff coming through on your Facebook feed or wherever you happen to hang out in the social media world, you've probably noticed just like how often you see these posts about 10xing things or make 6 figures in X number of months or double your income, and just all of these ways that we are just constantly focusing on growth. And I see opening as part of that process, like that opening is a piece of what what growth is involved in. But the thing is that in order for us to truly benefit, we also need to be able to close. We also need to be able to recognize the times when we need rest. So it's sort of like thinking about the universe in terms of inhale and exhale, and awake and asleep, and also thinking in terms of seasons, that there are the seasons of, if you think about winter is the time of going inward, it's the time of hibernation, it's the time of the seeds going into the darkness and resting and preparing and sort of dreaming what is possible for the future. And then we've got spring, where things start to gain energy and eventually start to sprout and come up, but their focus is on growth. Summer is the time of really just like banking all of that light and that sun and growing to fruition. And then autumn is the time of harvest and bringing it all in. And when we think about the fact that nature has cycles, it has cycles of rest and it has cycles of action. We have cycles of the wave going in and the wave receding back out. We breathe in and then we also exhale. And so with everything in life, there are the times when we need to be open and there are the times where we need to be closed. And so what I've been really thinking about is, how do we recognize what we are needing on any given day? And I especially love to set intentions on Mondays. I like to think about, how do I frame the rest of my week? And what is it that I really need right now? And so thinking in terms of that energy of, do I need to open more? Do I need to invite more? Do I need to welcome more? Or do I need to create more safety? Do I need to create more containment? Do I need to sort of dial things back down? And hey there, Philippa. I am so glad to see you from New Zealand. Welcome. And Lorraine, welcome. Welcome to everybody who is here right now. So I was saying to my students earlier today, when it comes to recognizing where we're at and what do we need to, and hey there, Brenna or Brina, welcome, and Pamela, welcome. So when I was talking with my students earlier today, I was talking with them about recognizing when it's time to focus on the opening or the digging deeper, going in for more answers, more clarity, more focus, or when it is time to create containment and closure. And I was saying to them, and I think this is really relevant for all of us, that there are two factors that I really like to take into consideration when it comes to whether it's an opening time or a closing time. So for me, what I've noticed is that first and foremost, time is really a relevant factor, because opening takes energy and time. And if you open up something, you're going to need to address it. You're going to need to process it. You're going to need to deal with it. And when it comes to healing work, when it comes to opening up a can of worms, when it comes to exploring a negative feeling or some kind of a limiting belief or some kind of trapped emotion or old memory, any of those things, if you're going to open it up, there needs to be the time and the space to address it. You can't necessarily just like open it and then leave it. Most of the time, if you're going to open something, you need to be prepared to deal with it. And so when it comes to opening, we really want to be thinking, do I have the time right now? Do I have the space in my life to deal with this? So, hey there, Melissa, good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. So as an example, when I was in art school long ago in a galaxy far, far away, and I was very active in a sugar addiction, which actually I write all about in the brand new book that just came out the other day, The Wellness Universe, Guide to Self-Care, 25 Tools for Goddesses, Guide to Complete Self-Care, 25 Tools for Goddesses, which, by the way, I want to invite all of you to come join us at our launch party tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. There will be amazing prizes handed out, including an opportunity to do some deep dive work with me on food cravings or any other kind of craving. But it's an opportunity to do some one-on-one work with me around cravings privately. Anyway, so you can, and I will share a link to that in the comments below. Obviously not right now because I'm on a Facebook Live and I can't quite do two things at the same time, but that will be happening. But anyway, to get back to my story. So when I was in art school, I was a chain smoker. I actually was a 2-pack a day Camel filter smoker. I, smoked Marlboros at various times, and sometimes I'd smoke French cigarettes. Whenever I was going through finals, I'd always smoke Gauloises, which are these, like, oh my God, they smell like camel dung. Like they are just disgusting. And I had an uncle who used to smoke Gauloises, so I kind of always associated the smell with him because it's kind of this weird sort of very, very just, I don't know, like very bohemian sort of like hip chick art student thing. And so I really enjoyed smoking those cigarettes. But I was a really heavy smoker. I mean, I was a 2-pack a day, like chain smoker. And when I was in art school, I knew that even though I needed to quit smoking, I knew that I didn't have the time or the energy or the resources to deal with what would happen when I quit smoking. And so I deliberately and consciously put it off. And then finally, in my last semester in art school, in hindsight, maybe not the best time to do it, but in my last semester, basically for New Year's, in the last semester of art school, I was going to be graduating from art school, I decided to quit smoking at the same, as I was also finishing up in art school. And the thing is that quitting smoking was one of the most powerful, life-changing things I have actually ever done in my life. It brought me to my knees. It revealed all of the other stuff that I had been suppressing, that I had been pushing down, and that I had been using cigarettes to self-soothe and to navigate. So, for example, when I quit smoking, I gained 40 pounds within 2 months. Like, I gained a lot of weight really quickly. And I am 5 foot and 3/4 of an inch tall. Like, I mean, sometimes I'll lie on my driver's license. I say I'm 5'1", but I'm not even 5'1". So imagine and I do have a very sturdy frame. I definitely have a good Scottish peasant woman body. So I can carry more weight than somebody like my mom, who's built like a bird. Like she's an Aquarian, I'm a Capricorn. So I definitely have much more of a sturdy body, but still, for somebody with a 5'1" frame, weighing 40 more pounds in 2 months is that's a lot of strain on the joints. And I certainly did not expect that was going to happen when I quit smoking, but it did. But the other things that happened, and hey there, Nina, so good to see you. The other thing that happened for me when I decided to quit smoking was that I realized that I was completely socially awkward. I had absolutely no sense of how to engage with people without a cigarette. Because when I was in art school, I was really used to taking breaks and using cigarettes as my excuse to take a break. So the thing was, there was this whole sort of social thing where people would go out into the halls and smoke. That was back in the days where you could still smoke in buildings. We would go out into the hall and smoke cigarettes and hang out with each other. And bumming cigarettes was a way to engage with each other. Smoking cigarettes in the hall together and just kind of having casual chit chat. That was kind of how a lot of us would socialize with each other. And when I quit smoking, all of a sudden, I no longer felt worthy of having conversations with these people. I no longer felt like I had any justification for going out into the hall and hanging with people. And so there were two things that I kind of lost very quickly in addition to my smoking habit. I lost, and I gained weight, but I lost my ability to take breaks because I was using cigarettes as my way to take a break and and relax. And the other thing that I did was that as I lost my ability to take breaks, was that the other thing that I did was I lost my sense of social purpose. I lost my sense of place within my community because I was no longer one of them. I was no longer smoking. And so what I thought was going to be a fairly easy, straightforward thing to just quit smoking ended up being very, very profoundly life-changing because I got to deal with my social anxiety. I got to deal with my need to self-soothe. I immediately switched from smoking cigarettes to eating food and binging on sugar. And I also really got to face all of the places within me that felt unworthy, that felt undeserving, that really felt incredibly uncomfortable about my sense of where I fit into the world. And so the thing about this, going back to open or close, which is the theme of today's Facebook Live, is that I made a choice to stay closed on the quitting smoking until I came to the end of my time in art school. And then I decided to open up that can of worms. Even within opening up that can of worms, I still got to deal with stuff that I wasn't really prepared to deal with. And in many ways, it really was the beginning of absolutely everything. And hey there to everybody who's saying hello, Kendall and Melissa and Gertrude and Samantha. Hi there to all of you guys. So the thing is, in hindsight, I would say that quitting smoking was probably one of the hardest and best things that I've ever done in my life. That it really is, like if I hadn't quit smoking, I would not be where I am today. I don't know if I'd even be alive at this point in time. Chances are my lungs would have really, really taken a hit by now. And especially because as a visual artist and a photographer, I was being exposed to a lot of really toxic chemicals at the same time. So, it's entirely possible that I could have ended up with lung cancer even, 20 years ago at this point in time. So I'm, just from the standpoint of I'm alive, that's a wonderful thing. But also from the standpoint that cigarettes had been such a crutch for me. They were acting as a smokescreen, kind of literally, for empathic distress. And they were also acting as kind of that pacifier or that self-soothing so that I wasn't eating all the time. They gave me a sense of purpose. They gave me an excuse. They gave me the ability to say, I need to go smoke a cigarette. I need to take a break. So cigarettes were acting as a boundary for me. And they also really gave me sort of an excuse to hang out with other people. And when I quit smoking, all of these things dropped away, and suddenly I was dealing with and having to face myself. And that was really hard. So the thing about open or close is there are times in our life where it really does make sense to open up the can of worms, or to open up to the possibility of something new, something different, to invite growth, to invite change, to invite shifts. And then there are other times where what we really need to do is create closure, resolution, and actually containment, bringing things in as opposed to sending them out or opening them up. So really thinking about, do I need to be in a state of expansion right now? Or do I need to be in a state of calming and containing right now? Now, as I was saying in my class earlier tonight, or this afternoon, as I was talking with my students, I was saying that timing and time is one of the really big things about whether to open or close. If you don't have the time to follow up and to deal and to take responsibility for what you will have to face if you open something, then don't open it. And the other piece of it is that thinking about time, generally, if you don't have the time, the answer is close. And if you do have the time, then the next question is, do I have the energy? Do I have the emotional reserves? Do I have what's called the spoons for this? Now, there's this theory within sort of the autoimmune world and chronic illness world that's called the spoon theory, which basically the idea is that every single day we have a certain number of spoons in the drawer. And once you use that spoon, it's kind of like the reboot or the reset button has to happen overnight. There's no going over to the sink and washing one of the spoons so you can have it. That actually would take another spoon to go and wash the spoon. And so once you've used up your spoons, which is your energy, then you kind of have to call it done and call it good. So when it comes to opening, not only do we need to think about, is this the right time to open, and do I have the space? Do I have the resources? Can I navigate this? Is this even the right time to do it? But we also have to be asking ourselves, do I have the spoons to do this? Do I have the emotional reserves to do this? Do I have the resilience to do this? Do I have the stamina to do this? Do I have the strength to do this? Do I have what I need to take this on? Is this the right time to take this on? And so when it came to quitting smoking for me, I was very clear that I could not quit smoking until I was practically done with art school. And I don't know exactly why I decided to quit smoking in the last semester. Not necessarily thought out, but intuitively I knew that I couldn't do it earlier than that. And in many ways, quitting smoking during that last semester kind of sort of primed the pump for my absolute existential crisis that came next, that kind of led me to my knees and got me to admit that I had a severe sugar addiction and that I really, really needed to stop binging on sugar and that I needed to deal with a lot of other stuff. And so I decided that it was time to open and address that. And it was a very conscious choice. And so that awareness of, do I have the resources? Do I have the energy? Do I have the spoons to deal with this? That is the question about opening. When it comes to closing, we can recognize the need to close our energy, the need to bring in some calming and containing by how agitated are we feeling? If you were thinking about using the SUD scale, which is the subjective units of distress scale, on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being absolutely no energy, no intensity at all, like nothing is there, to 10 being it is the most intense, worst thing, or not necessarily worst, but the most intense, the most heightened, largest, biggest, like just huge thing you can possibly even imagine, then what you want to be asking yourself is, where is my energy on, in terms of what I'm already dealing with, what I've already got on my plate? Do I have 0 on my plate, or do I have 10 on my plate? And if the answer is that I've got anything, I would say over like a 5 on the plate, opening up and adding more stuff to the plate doesn't make sense. And if you're working on something really important, even if you've got like a 2 or a 3 on your plate, if there is a major priority that needs to get done, again, it does not make sense to open to anything new. What makes the most sense is to actually what makes the most sense is to actually focus on that one or two things that are already there, and then really, really working on calming, soothing, and containing the stuff that you do not have the spoons for, the time for, or the energy to address right now. So I figured I would actually share with you guys how to do a little bit of containing, and this is called boxing. And Kendall, I'm just seeing your comment here. I don't know whether my fingers are just too cold, but I'm trying to read the C more, and it's like it's not letting me opening it up. But just talking about making the deliberate choice to have a glass of wine and saying, you know what, right now this is the thing that will bring me, like this is working for me for today. This is also something that can come up in relationships. I've been in relationships at times where I knew that the relationship was not going to last forever, but it was not the time to rip the Band-Aid off. It was not the time to say, I'm done with this. And maybe it's because I'm a Capricorn with Virgo rising that I tend to think in terms of pragmatism and timing, because Saturn is the planet that rules Capricorn and also is kind of the controller of time. I'm always thinking about, is this the right time to be making these choices? Is this the right time to be making this decision? Is this the right time to be opening up this can of worms, to be asking these questions, to be going down this rabbit hole? Because there have been many a time where I have seen the writing on the wall, or people that I know and love, or clients have seen the writing on the wall, where we knew a change was coming, but we also knew that we needed to get our ducks in a row and we needed to prepare so that we didn't just jump off a cliff with no parachute. And I think that's the thing, is that if you're just out in the social media world and you're just sort of watching the success stories, you never really hear about their timing. You never really hear about Virgo with Taurus rising, of course. You never really hear about all of the strategic moves and the incremental steps that people take to go from when they realized something, they had a revelation or they had an inspiration or they had an invitation, to the realization of it further down the road. Most of the time we're hearing about the idea and then we're hearing about the realization, and we don't see any of the stuff that goes between it, and especially we don't see the waiting, we don't see the pausing, we don't see the times where it's like, you know what, right now is not the time to do this. And there have been many a time in my life where I had an idea, I had a plan, and yet the universe had other plans. Right after Empathic Mastery, the Empathic Mastery book came out, which is kind of back in the corner next to that Christmas cactus over there. When the book came out, right after that, I was planning on launching the Empathic Mastery Academy and starting to run it going into January, like starting in like early 2020. And we kind of all know what happened in early 2020. But in November, right after the book launched and right after it was published and became a #1 bestseller on Amazon, right after that, my dad got really sick, and suddenly I just had to like put everything on hold because it was time to focus on my family and focus on letting him know that I loved him and being there to honor his life and honor him as we went through that period of time. And then obviously, then the universe threw another curveball at me, and I slipped and fell on right after Christmas and right before New Year's. I slipped and fell and smashed my head against the back of a propane tank, and I sustained a concussion. And so it was very clear that the universe was like, you know what? Now is not the time to be opening up new things. Now is the time to be focusing on rest. Now is the time to be focusing on pausing. Now is the time to be really, really giving yourself permission to focus on what matters and what's most important, and trust that these new things will happen when it is the right time to happen. And so Where am I, Kendall? I am in Maine on the eastern seaboard of the United States. And I am actually originally from Massachusetts. I'm a grateful former masshole. So, but I live in horse country in beautiful, beautiful, just a gorgeous place in on this earth. I'm very, very grateful. So, anyway, talking about just looking at those times when it makes sense to open things and when it makes sense to close things or contain things. It's really important to honor our limits and to honor our timing. And so, but also, as I was saying, to honor the fact that things take time. A lot of times they take a lot more time than we might necessarily realize. So the project, one of the big projects that I've been working on over this last year has been getting the audiobook ready for Empathic Mastery. And we are coming in on the home stretch. The book is with the sound editor right now. She is coming in on the home stretch. Then it's going to go to the sound engineer who will sweeten it up a little bit more. And then it will go over to Amazon and Audible and will become available and I'll be able to release it on a number of different platforms. But the thing about this is that this is not something that I got an idea about like a couple months ago and decided to make happen. I started when I wrote the book, when I started working on the book, and that was back in 2016. I started working on the book in 2016. As I was writing the book, I knew it was going to ultimately be an audiobook. So I was thinking from the very beginning of writing the book and working on it and teaching the content and the material, I knew from the very start that this was eventually going to become an audiobook. So 2016, all the way forward to 2022, when the book will finally get released, we're talking 8 years from idea. Is it 8 years? No, 2016, 6 years. So 6 years from inception to conception to realization, to birth. And the thing is that if I had tried to force it for sooner, faster, more, it wouldn't have worked. It just wouldn't have worked. And so knowing when it is the time to open and when it is the time to close is really, really important. So my question to you right now is, where are you at in terms of your energy cycle, your seasons, your inner rhythms? What kind of spoons do you have? Are you in a place where you feel like it is like you've got room for growth, you've got room for changing and shifting, and you are ready to open? Or are you in a place where you need to be tying up loose ends, sweeping out the corners, dealing with the stuff that you're already dealing with, and creating closure and closing doors so that you're not bringing in more energy than you can handle at a given point in time? Yes. And Newport, Kendall, I love that you know where I am and that you are from Newport. I love Newport. It's one of the places, although I have to say when I was a child or a young adult, I was enchanted by all of the mansions in Newport. I loved going to the mansions in Newport. And then the last time I went, I was a little bit like, it was kind of like my social awareness, particularly about class issues and all of these other things. Like, I had such a different perspective being in Newport the last time I was there. It was really quite eye-opening to see it from a completely different perspective. So, but I love Newport. It's such a beautiful, and Marble House, I think, is one of my favorite places. It's just so gorgeous. So anyway, I was telling you guys I wanted to teach you a closure exercise. So if you need to open things up, I think that's something our culture teaches us how to open things constantly. Our culture is constantly showing us how to go after the growth, how to initiate change, how to, say yes to the big thing. Most of us do not need to learn anything more about FOMO. And we don't necessarily need to learn more about going after the shiny object. But what a lot of us do need to learn how to do is how to put things on a shelf, how to put things in a box, how to create some containment. So I figured that I would actually teach you guys a really simple exercise for putting it into a box. And so this is a tapping thing. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to tap on the side. If you can tap along, great. If you can't, you can just watch and think these thoughts. And so, as with all of my tapping videos, you agree to take 100% responsibility for your own process. Don't go places that you don't belong. If I say something and it doesn't quite work for you, then change the words to work for you. And obviously, a 5 or 10 minute tapping sequence on a Facebook Live is not the same as doing a one-on-one session with a skilled EFT practitioner. And so, if you notice that energy is coming up, what I invite you to do is just really breathe. I invite you to just keep tapping gently, maybe slow your tapping down, and just really give yourself permission to just slow down and just keep tapping until you notice things have shifted. So, what we're going to do is we're going to start with what's called a setup statement, and we're just going to acknowledge that we're dealing with some stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it into some kind of a container. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to think about how the level of intensity that you are dealing with of what's on your plate. So, like I said, 0 being nothing on your plate, 10 being more than you could possibly ever handle in your entire life. And just what I want you to do is just notice the number for you. What have you got? I'm just realizing as I'm tuning in, I've got somewhere between like a 5 and a 6 on my plate right now. It's not completely unmanageable, but it's enough. It's like I've got a bunch of stuff going on. And then what we want to do is once you've got your number for how much is on your plate, I just want you to sort of think about what kind of a container do you want to put all of this into? Like what do you want to put, like what do you want to contain it in? Do you want to dump the stuff on your plate into a Tupperware container? Do you want to use a beautiful box? Do you want to send it out on a boat? Do you want to send it in a rocket ship? There's no wrong way to do this. There's all kinds of options. This is about you choosing the container for you. So and I'm just going to I've got a bunch of stuff on my plate. And if you find there's other words you want to use those. But I would say keep it somewhat loose. So even though I've got a bunch of stuff on my plate, I'm okay. And for right now, I'm just going to scrape everything off the plate except for the one thing, the one main thing that I need. And I'm going to put it into a big plastic container. I'm going to make sure it's all in there. Take a spatula and scrape off all the extra stuff. And I am going to close the lid. And for right now, I'm going to put it into the freezer and let the universe take care of it. And trust that if I focus on the one thing, the rest can be handled when it's time. So even though I've had some stuff on my plate, right now I'm going to focus on the one most important thing. And I'm going to take all the rest and I'm just going to scrape it off the plate, put it into a container, snap the lid on, and I'm going to put it into the freezer and let it sort itself out. And I'm open to the possibility that I can take these things out of the container one by one in the right time when I need to. So even though it's just true, I've had a lot of stuff on my plate, I'm just acknowledging it right now, and I'm taking it and I'm scraping it off of the plate, putting it into a big plastic Tupperware container, snapping the lid on, and putting it in the freezer and letting the universe handle it. Letting those things just rest while I focus on the one most important thing, and trusting that I can come back to everything else when I need to. And I give myself permission to take the time and space that I need to focus on the one most important thing. Now we're going to tap on the top of the head, every bit of it, all the stuff all the extra stuff going into the container. All the extra stuff going into the container. Scraping it off the plate, putting it into the container, putting on the lid, snapping the lid shut, putting it in the freezer, letting it rest, trusting that I can focus on the one most important thing and deal with all the rest when I need to. Okay, let's just take a deep breath. And just noticing how you're feeling. I like to put my hands on my heart and just tuning in and taking a deep breath. I like to do that. And just noticing, where are you at? Noticing what was your number if you were here at the beginning and you chose a number for intensity. What was your number on the plate when you started? And now just tuning in and thinking, what is the number now? So for me, my number was like a 5, 6, and now it feels more like a 3, 4. There's still a little bit of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another round of tapping. And so actually, for those of you who've been tapping along, if you'd write in the comments what your starting number was and what your number is now, I'd love to see where things are at for you. And also, if you want to give me some thumbs up or some hearts, letting me know if you're starting to feel more calm and grounded. I'd love to know how you're doing. And if you are suddenly like, oh my God, I have so much stuff on my plate, that is what this next round. Awesome. Oh my goodness. That is incredible. I'm not sure if I know how to say your name, so please forgive me. Is it Fulia or Fulaya? Wow, so 8 to 2, 7 to 3, one round of tapping, and we are creating containment. And that's the thing about tapping to contain, is that it doesn't have to take a lot of time at all. That's the beauty of it. And when we contain things, it really allows us to actually then go on and deal with the things that are important. And so that is the thing about containment, is that by containing stuff, then we can go forward. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do another round. So even though now all the extra stuff is in the container, I'm just tapping on it. And I give myself permission to focus on what really matters and let go of all the rest. It's in the freezer and the universe can deal with it. And I can come back to it when I need to. So even though all the extra stuff is in the container now, the lid is snapped shut, I put it in the freezer, I'm tapping on the side of my hand. Thank you, sorry about that. It's like this is down the side of the pinky, 3 fingers here, and tapping on the side of the hand. Sorry, I was out of camera, out of range. So even though it's in the container now, all the extra stuff, I'm just tapping on it and giving myself permission to focus on what really matters, giving myself permission to let all the rest go, and open to the possibility that this can work itself out, that this can be surprisingly easy, and that I can deal with things when it is the right time. So even though all the extra stuff is in the container, all I've got is the one most important thing. And it's in the freezer. And the universe is taking care of it. And I give myself permission to release all of the things that no longer serve me, to release the things that are not important, to let go of all the extra stuff, and to let the universe take care of it. I focus on what I need to focus on, and I can come back to any of the other stuff when it's the right time. And I choose to trust in the divine time. I choose to trust in divine timing, in the divine plan. And I breathe in ease, and I let go of stress. Back to the top of the head. All the extra stuff, it's in the freezer. I choose to trust that I can come back to it only when I need to. Every last bit of it, every last bit of extra stuff in the container, in the freezer, and the universe is dealing with it. Every bit of it, all the extra stuff in the container, put it in the freezer, and letting the universe take care of it. All the extra stuff in the freezer, in the container. All the extra stuff in the container, in the freezer. Every last bit of it. Just resting. I can come back to it when I need to. Every last bit. In the container. Letting the universe take care of it. And I'm okay. Let's take a deep breath. How are you guys doing now? If you're noticing a shift, I'm noticing my energy has definitely settled down some more. I would say it feels like, in terms of what's left on my plate, I can see, actually, all I can see on my plate is I can see like a classic sort of like dinner plate, like a white restaurant dinner plate. And what I can see is just like this one big chunk that's in the middle of it. That's the thing that I need to be focusing on, which is basically the audiobook and getting that out into the world. And so just really, as well as actually the launch party we have for the Wellness Universe, complete, Guide to Complete Self-Care, 25 Tools for Goddesses, because we've got a party happening tomorrow. So, and the rest of it, it's just like gone right now. So how are you guys doing? Let me know if you are feeling a shift in your energy. You can give me some hearts, some thumbs up. Maybe write your numbers down, where you've gone, what you've shifted to. And what we're going to do sort of as a last round is we're going to do what's called touch and breathe, which is a way to really help re-regulate our nervous system, help bring us out of fight or flight, and help to calm us down. It's really simple. We just start by taking your fingers and pressing them gently against the side of your hand. And you could start with the top of your head, but we're just going to start with the side of your hand. Actually, instead of side of your hand, you see how I've got even though written on like right in that groove between my ring finger and my pinky finger? This is called the Gamut Point in EFT. In acupuncture, it's known as the triple warmer. And so I'm just going to take these 3 fingers from my right hand, and I'm going to put them into the groove on my left hand, and I'm going to kind of wrap my palm around the other side, and I'm going to give my hand a little bit of a hug. And what we're going to do is we're just going to breathe in calmness and peace, and we're going to breathe out tension and worry. Another one, and let go. One more time, and letting go. Now just resting your hand gently on the top of your head. You might want to put your other hand on your heart. And we're just going to breathe in calmness and peace. And letting go of tension or worry. Now both fingers on the eyebrow points, kind of right at the top where your eyebrows start and your eye at the top of your eye sockets. Just kind of pushing in gently. And just breathing in calmness and peace. And breathing out tension or worry. Now we're going to the sides of the eyes, right on the temples, kind of right on the bone, past your eye socket, right on the edges of the bone, and just breathing in calmness. And breathing out any last bits of worry or concern. Now touching under your eyes, breathing in calmness. And breathing out any last concerns. Now touching under your nose, between your nose and your lip, and just breathing in and letting go. Now moving to the point, the groove between your lip and your chin, breathing in and exhaling. Finally going to the collarbone points, breathing in and exhaling. And now under the arm, you travel down your arm, onto your rib cage, onto your rib cage so that you're kind of past your breast, right on the ribs, and just breathing in and letting go. And now coming back to the side of the Gamut Point again and hugging that, breathing in and letting go. And so hopefully you guys are feeling as calm and grounded and relaxed as I am right now. I definitely feel a lot more grounded and like my nervous system is not nearly as jacked as it was. And I also don't feel nearly as overwhelmed by all the things that are on my plate. So I hope that all of you are feeling a little bit more or a lot more calm and relaxed and grounded. Now, as I've mentioned, a couple rounds of tapping on a Facebook Live is not the same as doing a private session with a skilled EFT practitioner. That is something that I do, and also That is something where you can find practitioners from all over the world over at eftinternational.org. And I also want to invite you, if this was fun, if this felt like, oh, this is good, I really want to invite you to come on over to my Facebook group, the Empathic Mastery Circle. It is a free Facebook group. It is a private group, so that what you see in Empathic Mastery Circle, it's like what you see in Empathic Mastery Circle stays in Empathic Mastery Circle. Or the first rule of Empathic Mastery Circle is we don't talk about Empathic Mastery Circle. I was just hearing Fight Club stuff earlier today, so thinking about that. But really, this is a place where what you see here, what happens there is private and personal. And every single month I offer a master class where I talk about really important things that are relevant for highly sensitive empathic people. And also we have opportunities for engagement and resources and all kinds of wonderful stuff every single day. So please come on over and join us at the Empathic Mastery Circle. And you can find us at Facebook groups, Empathic Mastery Circle, all one word, Empathic Mastery Circle. So please come on over. And also, if you're already a member and you know how awesome it is, then please invite your friends, other people, and who you think would be a good fit there. Anybody who is highly sensitive and empathic and looking for some support. The Empathic Mastery Circle is a place where they can get support. So please share those invitations with people that you think would be a good fit. People who are ready to do the work, people who want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. I would say if you got Debbie Downers, don't invite them, because we don't need the Debbie Downers. We are looking for people. Now, and I'm not saying somebody is going through a hard time. If somebody's going through a hard time and they're doing the work, this is a place where they can get that support. But people who are just constantly focusing on there being problems and not willing to do anything about it, this is not a place where they would fit in very well, because this is a place where they will be invited to do the work. So please invite your friends over to the Empathic Mastery Circle. If you're not part of it yourself yet, come on over and join us. And also, if you would like an opportunity to win a session with me, come to our big launch party for 25 Tools for Goddesses tomorrow at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, where we will be giving away all kinds of amazing prizes. And I am giving away some private sessions, one-on-one sessions with me, specifically for working on cravings and getting and putting them aside. So this is what I got for you for today. Thank you all who showed up and have been hanging out with me and tapping along with me. It is always such an incredible pleasure to share the space with you and to tap along with you, even though I know we're in virtual space and it's I'm seeing your comments. Energetically, I can absolutely feel your engagement, and it just is amazing, the magic that we get to create. So that's what I got for right now. Please don't hesitate to, if you've got questions, write them in the comments below, but especially come over to the Empathic Mastery Circle for a lot of support, a lot of conversation, and some really exciting stuff. There's a post in there right now all about open and close, where we've started that dialogue about what do we need to be doing? Do we need to be open? Do we need to be closed? Where are we at right now? So I am wishing you an absolutely magnificent week, and I look forward to seeing you guys over in the Empathic Mastery Circle. And until later, I am just sending you all kinds of love and peace. So I'll catch you on the other side sometime soon.